Hello everyone, welcome to Naomi's Bookshelf. I am here for my final wrap up for November. I read a good amount considering what I expected and how I felt partway through the month, but I ended up being pretty happy with the totals. So let's go over the last few things that I've read. Sorry, that was a bit loud. I only have 2 physical books that I read. Everything else was ebooks or audio, and I will tell you about those, but all of those will be listed in my description box in case you're wanting to have more information about those particular books or what they're called and how to find them. All right, the first thing that I read, and also I guess I should add, I made a vlog where I read for as many hours as I could within a 48-hour window. I will link my vlog for you. There's a lot more comprehensive thoughts because I think I read 8 books in that window. And so I will mention those books, but I'm not going to go over them in depth. I'll just kind of give a rating and how I felt about it. But I will let you go there if you want to have a lot more information. So the first thing that I read that was not in that vlog was Who Done It You Decide by Hi Conrad. Now this one is part of a series where it's like a 2-3 page mystery. You read it, there's some clues in there that you can solve, and then you figure out who done it, what's the problem, whatever else. This one's different. I haven't read this one before, and I haven't read anything by Hi Conrad before. I mean, I enjoyed it. I think this one was interesting. This one is court case documents as opposed to like a little story about a police officer coming into a burglary, something like that. So this one it would be like this case. You would read the case, you read transcripts from the case, witness testimony, the evidence that you would need to put it together. Then at the end of the book, you have, let's see right here, there is these jury deliberations. So it's something where you might, like, I might not understand it, but someone else will be like, hey, what about those tires? Like, what's wrong with the tires? So that's what we talked about in the jury deliberation, where the jury discusses what's going on, what they think is the solution. And then you can read the verdict, which tells you what actually is the solution. So it's a 3-part reading thing, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed the rest of the series. Like, the other books are good, but often it'll be like things like, if you don't know football plays, you'll miss the clue in this story. I'm like, I don't know football plays. Give me ancient literature, I'll get it. Not that. So I'm a little bit more confused with those ones. But this one, it was good because the jury deliberations could give you more information. Like, one jury member says this, and you're like, okay, I didn't know that before. So it's good that thing was brought to that attention, and now I can puzzle that out. So I liked these. I thought this was a really good one. I think I gave it 4 stars, if not 3 stars. These are very old, like mid-90s, I think, but they're good. And they're fun reading. It's just definitely a different style than the rest of the series, but I enjoyed it and I'm glad I finally got to it. The other physical book I have, which was actually in that vlog, so I won't talk too much about it, was Sense Sensibility. So the Sense Sensibility screenplay and diaries by Emma Thompson. This is the screenplay of the 1995 version of Sense Sensibility and Emma's diaries while she was filming it in the main role of Eleanor. So I thought it was interesting. I gave it 5 stars. I liked reading her experience, even though I was like, wow, interesting perspective. But that's the thing, it's her perspective. So I didn't fight that. And I also really liked reading the screenplay, even though this is not my favorite Jane Austen Sense Sensibility adaptation, which I know is kind of a hot take, but that's okay. I really enjoyed reading this one, and I am glad I finally got to it and I have it on my shelves. 2 books that I read that were not part of my reading vlog were from the Billionaire Next Door series by Elizabeth Madurai. So the first one that I read was The Billionaire's Backup, and this one was, I'm gonna forget his name, but I remember the storyline very well. So he has bought this house because he's gonna renovate it, but basically his best friend, who they made like a marriage pact, like it's like, if we're both single by the time we're 33, we're getting married. That kind of best friend, and he's been in love with her forever. She comes and helps renovate his house. Meanwhile, she's trying to figure out if she still likes her, or if they ever have a chance, and it's just a really sweet romance. I really enjoy this series. This is a hit series for me. I love the Billionaire Next Door series. I've already pre-ordered the last book because I'm gonna need it as soon as I can in February. It's just that great of a series. So yeah, this one, Also, it's like, it's not a big deal, but I always love it when these kind of books show a different, like, different thing in typical relationships. Like in this one, what's her, I think her name is Jo. She's like 6'5" or 6'2", and so she's taller than the guy that she's paired up with, and it's totally great. Like that's not something you commonly see. And then in the next book that I read, which was The Billionaire's Teacher, that one is about, what's his name? Steven, I think. Anyways, he goes on this, he's trying to become a scuba, like, charter person. He's trying to like put together these scuba trips. And so he's going down to the Caribbean to discover some good spots to bring tours, people. And as he's there, he's chartered a yacht that has been run by this woman who's 10 years older than him. They are 10 years apart, but they are instantly attracted to each other. And she is fighting this feeling because he's her client, and they're also stuck on this yacht for like 3 weeks together. But they have a great time. She's showing him all these sights, and then a hurricane hits, and it was just so good. And like, I have personal experience in the Caribbean. My parents were missionaries there for several years, and I've been there several times. So it was really cool to read a book kind of about that culture. Also with an older woman than the man, but it was just really cool to see that culture come out in that way. And it was neat to see different islands represented. So yeah, really, really well done. Both of them got 5 stars, I think, if not 4 stars. I can't remember exactly, but if that's the problem, that I don't remember if I gave it a 5 or not, that's a pretty good problem. So yeah, definitely recommend the Billionaire Next Door series. And the last one, I think it's called The Billionaire's Wife, and that comes out in February, and I cannot wait to pick it up. Next, I have some books that I did read in that vlog, so I will direct you there for more thoughts. The first was The Royal Mysteries of the Tudor Period by Timothy Venning. This is what it is. Sounds like it's about mysteries that are kind of like court mysteries. Like the first one I think was if Henry VII's, like the people who came up and were like challenging his throne, challenging their line to the throne, saying that they were more in line, if they were actually possibly accurate. So it goes over historical information, documentation that we have found, different things that they have said, and like kind of goes over it. It's basically like 70 pages, maybe not 70 pages, like 50 pages per story. So it's not really like a short question. It's a novella, essentially, length of information. Really interesting if you're not aware of that information or aware of that mystery. I think it was really well done. I just knew a lot more of those mysteries, like I said in my vlog, so my enjoyment level was lower, but I still gave it a 4. The next one was the Stuart and Georgian era. So the Royal Mysteries of the Stuart and Georgian era. Same author, Timothy Venning, gave that one 4 stars as well. I learned a lot more. I had a lot more fun because I did not know as much walking into that book. And that is not the author's fault. That is my fault because I think I've overread myself in Tudor history. So that's nothing wrong there. Then I read God Save Benedict Arnold by Jack Kelly. This one got a 5. I loved reading this one. This was such a great one about the American Revolution and Benedict Arnold following his entire military career, his family, Congress, how he was treated by fellow soldiers. Oh my goodness. It was just so encompassing. It wasn't too long, but it was so encompassing of his life that by the time it got to his treason, I was like fully invested and I didn't care so much. I knew that he had done something wrong, but being a Canadian, and it's just one of those pop culture things you hear about it, but you don't really know it, especially if you've not been taught that specific element. So I was really, really happy to just read that one. That was a perfect book for me to read in that moment. And I'm still ready to sing its praises because it was that good. Then I read Magic, Lies, and Deadly Pies by Misha Pop. This one I gave 4 stars to. This one is about Daisy, who makes these pies that have magical elements in them. There's certain kind of like magic that she puts in it where it brings about energy or strengthens people or encourages people or can maybe murder someone if needed. So it's very much a system where She only gives this information to people who are being abused. So this book does talk about domestic violence. If that's a trigger for you, be warned. And it talks about also a rapist at the very beginning of the very first chapter. And so only women who have been affected by this are able to really prove it, or like, she's not going to do it to just anybody. And she also never does it to a woman. And then someday one person finds out about who she is, what she's doing, and they're using it to blackmail her and trying to get her to kill some people who she would never kill anyways. So yeah, very interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to pick up book 2 if my library will get their hands on it, and book 3 because I got an arc of it, because I just can't risk not having another book in that series. It was very good. 4 stars for sure. I also read American Fairy Tales by L. Frank Baum. I gave this one 3 stars. It was interesting. It was fairy tales. It was Americanized. It was Depression era. And it wasn't bad. I feel like I'm kind of being a downer right now. It wasn't bad. I think it just didn't age very well. And then there were several racist stories, which I was like, interesting. I appreciated the interesting, but I didn't like how it was kind of coded in racism at times. Obviously, it was just like there was one story set in Africa, and I just didn't like how terminology was used. But the story itself was really interesting with the magic that they're talking about, and like the fairy tales with the hippopotamuses. I really liked the story. I just didn't like the racist overtones that were kind of set into it. So that makes sense. It is good. I think you just need to walk into it with open eyes, being ready to have discussions if you're reading it with kids, and just be aware it doesn't age the best. All right, the last 2 things. I read Exodus. I finished that one during that vlog as well. And then my last thing that I read also during that vlog was Queen Catherine Parr by Anthony Martison, which was a weird one, like I mentioned there, because it was like 50 years old. It's 50 years old now, but it just came out. So I was very confused. It was about Queen Catherine Parr, and it kind of it went over her entire life, as much as we have documentation for. And I don't expect a documentation for everything. I know it was not very strong back then. I've read enough books by this point about that time era to know this, but I really liked that we got so much information. Also, because there isn't tons of information, I also like the fact that it was like, well, Catherine was probably at court during Anne Boleyn's life choices and that whole situation at court. So she could learn from that. She was at court during these times. So we don't have anything that she did, but we know she was present for. So it was interesting to see that kind of perspective. So I really liked how it was put together. I think I gave it 4 stars because just like the American Fairy Tales, some of the language didn't age perfectly well, but I did really enjoy it, and I really learned a lot about Queen Catherine Parr. And I think she was married 4 times, and I have a feeling, I meant to look this up, but I was like, she's either the most wedded queen in like British history, or she's pretty close there, because she had 2 husbands before Henry and then another one after. It's just really interesting to me how this book showed the maneuvering of her life, her political prowess, her savvy, her street smarts, all of that, because she was living in a time of unrest, a time of one wrong thing and you're dead, literally. It's just really interesting to show that, and then how she thrived and how she overcame, I'm sorry, I'm not thinking very clearly right now, but how she overcame all of those challenges. So I think it was really interesting. I talk a lot more, I think, about it in my vlog, and if not, you've clearly got my thoughts here. It was great, 4 stars. So I had a really good reading month. I read a few other books earlier in the month, which I'll link that reading wrap up for you if you'd like to check that out as well. And now we're entering into December. So I guess this is technically the second day of Vlogmas. I'm gonna be posting every 2 or 3 days in December. Not every day, but pretty frequently. It is the Christie's Missing Readathon tomorrow. You're still able to join us. There is no delay on that. Or if you're late, doesn't matter. Just read a Christie and you're good, or read about Christie and you're good. I am posting my Agatha Christie shelf tour tomorrow. So please check that out if you're interested in the editions I have, what covers they have. I show all. So I hope it will be a very fun time to see what books I've collected. But yeah, Vlogmas is here. I'm rambling on again. I'm sorry, it's my problem. I know it. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a comment. And if you have read any of these books or you want to talk about them or learn more about them, I'd love to discuss them in the comments below. Also, if you could give this video a like if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you are new here. And you might as well hit that notification bell if you haven't, because I'll be posting frequently in December, I hope. Anyways, I will see you next time. Bye for now.
In a house that I don't know,